Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Morning Devo with Bowo on this December 8th, 2021. This is a special day indeed. Uh, my wonderful, awesome wife's birthday is today. Today, like as in today, is her B-day. Super cool. So today's a day where I am going to take some time and hang out with Sylvia. And yeah, super cool. I could tell you so many cool things about Sylvia. Um, Sylvia and Bo. We've been hanging out an awful long time. So Sylvia and I grew up together. And unlike where we're at in the Bible in these morning devos, where you have these parents that want their kids to get married to someone who is of the same area, me and Sylvia grew up not too far from one another, actually, just a few houses down. So, we've known each other a long, long time since we were kids, young kids, and and it's so fun to be with someone that knows where you're from, knows your background, knows pretty much everything about you, all the good, the bad, the ugly, the not so good, and who is so united with you in life and body, soul, spirit. Just such a cool person to be around, fun. Um, and I love it. Her character, just her style, um, and super blessed. So, what am I gonna do? What do I have planned for my sweet wife? Well, it's her day, so whatever she wants to do, she's. I know us, and we're just gonna be stoked just to hang out together, and so that's kind of what we're gonna do. Whatever we do, we'll just be hanging out together, and that's the fun part. So I don't think it's so much what we do as long as we're just doing it together. So that's the day, no, December 8th. So thank you, Jesus, and we are stoked to be a part of course, the fellowship, and I couldn't do what I do like I do in the um, church without Sylvia. Sylvia is definitely the backbone. She's the foundation behind Bo, and all the things I'm able to do at the church and how I'm able to serve at the church. You got to have a great support team to be able to do what I do and the amount of time I put into everything. And without Sylvia, there's no way I could do it. She is super awesome. So, um, anyway, let's get into this. Chapter 28. You guys don't want to. You guys don't want to hear me talk about Sylvia all the Devo. No, even though I could, many stories, man. We have so many fun stories growing up back in the day. That's for sure. And so many cool stories now too. Neat things. So Isaac called for Jacob. We're in chapter 28 of Genesis. You can always check out the archives at the Bo Willette YouTube channel. But it says, so Isaac called for Jacob and he blessed him and said, "You must not marry any of these Canaanite women." Ooh, sometimes parents do that, right? They put up the boundary. Don't marry this kind of person. And sometimes kids will actually rebel from that and go a different direction. Um, and Jacob's brother Esau has already married two women that were Canaanite women from the land of Canaan. And the parents weren't too stoked about that. They were kind of bummed, right? And you already know my thoughts on the parenting of Isaac and Rebecca, and how it didn't seem like it was going too well, their parenting style. When it gets to Jacob, they're really stressing this. Get married to someone that we want you to, part of our family, not be influenced by these Canaanite women. And they really press Jacob to do that. Jacob's older by now, by the way. We don't really get that in just the reading of the text. But if you do a little background study, you'll find that he is much, much, much older. It would kind of shock you how old he is by the time he's getting out of his house. That might be a little long for most of us, but Jacob is quite the older gentleman by this time. And he says, instead, go at once to Padam Aram, to the house of your grandfather Bethuel, and marry one of your uncle Laban's daughters. And so go to the family, go to Rebekah's family, marry someone from Laban, her brother's daughters. So one of your cousins. And may God Almighty bless you and give you many children, and may your descendants multiply and become many nations. And so a blessing is then given over to Jacob, and it says, may God pass on to you and your descendants the blessing he promised Abraham. May you own this land where you are now living as a foreigner. So there's still foreigners in the land. They still haven't possessed this land of promise, this land flowing with milk and honey kind of idea. For God, it says, gave this land to Abraham. So we see another promise in the Bible, in the early stages of the Bible, book of Genesis, that the land is to Abraham's descendants. That's who Israel belongs to, if you will. We'll put the name Abraham, but to the land of Canaan, right? It is a land that has been given by God to Abraham and his descendants. So the reiteration of this promise takes place. Sometimes we need that reiteration, right, of the promise of God on a daily basis. You know, to have a good marriage, and I'll maybe keep it a marriage-friendly Devo, but in order to have a good marriage, you have to always reiterate the promise. Always reiterate the covenant. You know, the love within the covenant, the yes, I do idea. You know, living out your saying your covenant vows always one to another. You know, living that kind of life, you know, thinking that kind of way. And that is something that should always be on the mind and the hearts of the couple, is that covenant should always be before their mind. It's not that they're not going to break the covenant and be perfect in the covenant. Man, they're not. They're going to find failure. When Sylvia really needs me, sometimes I'm not there like I should be. I'm not as perfect to the covenant as I wish I could be, or I ought to be. But that covenant is something that guides me. It's something that definitely moves me. It enables me to continue to move, in proper good directions with her and in love with her, you know. But here the parents say, hey, go marry, someone over there. Don't marry these people here. And it says, so Isaac sent Jacob away, and he went to Padam Aram to stay with his uncle Laban, who he never has been with before, and his mother's brother, the son of Bethuel the Aramean. So this could be a scary moment for a person when they have to, in a sense, detach, when they have to now leave and go on their own. But notice how parents here give direction. And I kind of like this, the parental direction. This is where we want you to go, Jacob. This is we want to help you, in your life. And I love what Tamara says, my parents were great examples as I grew up. That's awesome. Giving direction. How many parents do say, hey, this is what I would love for your husband or your wife to be like? This is our desire for you. Do they give their kids a direction to look to? If not, a lot of times kids, as we grow up, we'll just look to everything, right? And sometimes we just base our partners just simply on things that aren't really good decision-making things. Like maybe I don't want to be alone, so you stick with a partner that you shouldn't stick with, but you just don't want to be alone. Or it could be that you do it just because you think they look good. And that's the big thing. They look good. It's not really about their character, but it's just about their looks. It's good to give your aging kids the direction. And here we see Jacob doing that and Rebekah doing that at this stage of the game. And so he goes. And Esau knew that his father Isaac had blessed Jacob and sent him to Paddan Aram to find a wife, and that he had warned Jacob, "You must not marry a Canaanite like Esau." He also knew that Jacob had obeyed his parents and gone to Paddan Aram. And it was now very clear to Esau that his father did not like the local Canaanite women. And I wonder why, right? Well, it probably for the same reasons why today things happen. When you send your kids places, you got to realize that they're going to be affected by the people that they're around. Let me say that again. When you send your kids somewhere, you have to understand that they're going to be affected by the people they're around. We sent our daughter to a school in San Francisco. Yeah, kind of close to downtown San Francisco. For some of her high school years. It would have been very naive of us, Sil and I, if we thought that April would not be influenced by those that she was around. We knew that not only would she influence people, but that people would influence her as well. Now this happens in all of our lives. People send their kids to college all the time. They're always sending their kids to college. And they don't realize that. What they're doing is they're sending their kids to a little world that will influence their student. How much they will be influenced, who knows, right? Sometimes the parents need to discern that. But they will be influenced. It's going to happen. And Jacob understood that very well. Esau had married 2 Canaanite women. He saw probably very much the influence that they had on his eldest son Esau, and he didn't like it. When you go into a university, you become a partner with that university, and a lot of times with the people of that university that are, and that's just going to happen. Things change, lives change, literally lives change. Families are altered by decisions like this. And it's funny, they seem so normal to us. Send your kid to college. But sometimes we don't realize the life-altering changes that are taking place in the sending of your kid to a place, or them joining in with a group of people. You just don't know the effects of that. And here we see Esau making those decisions. Tamara says, yes, sleepovers. Yeah, remember all the sleepovers and the effects that had on us. Absolutely. That's a good point. That's a funny point, but a good one. We all have had some pretty crazy sleepovers for sure. Yeah. But you can see how these affects, how it affects one another. And so Esau, what's in his heart? Let's look. Esau visited his uncle Ishmael's family and married one of Ishmael's daughters in addition to the wives he already had. His new wife's name was Mahalath and was the sister of Nebaioth and the daughter of Ishmael, Abraham's son. Interesting, right? So he sees that the Canaanite women tick his dad off. So what does he do? He goes to Ishmael, the firstborn son of Abraham. Remember, now this was not a good scene. Rebekah did not like Hagar, and Hagar was the mom of Ishmael. And you can go a few chapters back and read about the dysfunctionality of this family. But here Esau says, I'm going to marry. Now, what was Esau's in his mind? Was it to please his dad and say, hey, well, at least I'm marrying someone like close? This is it's your maid's family. You had intimacy with the maid and now you have a family by them. So at least I'm kind of in the family a little bit now. Or was it to spite his family more? Was it to say, Jacob's going to Rebekah's family. I'm going to go to Ishmael's family. I'm going to go to Hagar's family. That kind of parallel. Jacob's going, over to your wife Rebekah's family to find a wife. How about I go over to your other wife, Hagar, and I go to her family? And maybe it was kind of a slap, for Abraham. Maybe it was just, again, these decisions that don't seem to be made out of love or kindness or consideration. But they seem so bitter, moves of bitterness, tactical moves to just get at, to stab in the back. I'm glad me and Sylvia don't have a marriage where we have tactical moves to stab one another. She knows my weak areas in life, my frailness. She knows my fragileness in the sense of my yuck. And when you're married for as long as we have, almost 29 years, I know all of her, about her too. But to jab each other in those ways, to spite one another, to get at each other, or to get at, I'm glad my marriage isn't built on me spiting my parents, getting mad at my parents and saying, I'll show you, I'm going to marry this person. You don't like them, I'll marry them. That kind of attitude. Oh man, dude, that's nasty, man. That stuff will poison you for a long, long time, right? Those decisions that affect families forever, man. Decisions not made out of love. Man, really rough. And we all have seen that in lives. We've seen that in lives where people have made partnered decisions, not from a heart of love and loving obedience or loving submission. That kind of idea, but instead they made him out of spite to get back, or to try to manipulate those kind of things. Man, if I could, if you are dating and you have parents that you love, that have treated you good, bring that person over to your parents and then say, parents, what do you think of this person? And listen to them. They might give you some good wisdom. They might say, man, no. Be aware. And you should be aware. That kind of idea. Because, man, the decisions that we make, man, have some massive, massive ramifications. They certainly do. And some of them affect us our whole lives. And so, hey, I'm glad you love the music in the background. It's very, hopefully it's on nice and soft. So, Jacob's dream at Bethel. So meanwhile, Jacob left Beersheba, traveled toward Haran. So we get now the narrative going into Jacob's life in this traveling and really his relationship with God. Because we haven't heard much about Jacob's relationship with God. It's just been really about Isaac and Rebekah, his parents. But now that he's older and much, much older, he is now traveling to Haran. And at sundown, he arrives at a good place and he sets up camp and he stops there for the night. And Jacob found a stone to rest his head against and lay down to sleep. Now, Bob Marley, the reggae star back in the day, he talked about this. Old ground was my bed last night and rock was my pillow too. He has a song that talks about that. And this is kind of very much, his song was very much a picture of this kind of moment in Jacob's life where Jacob was traveling, kind of just a traveling guy going someplace, but not sure exactly what to expect or what was going to happen. Have you ever done that in your life where you've traveled or you've had moments in life where you just don't know what the future holds? I don't know what the future holds. What does God hold for us? Where is God directing us? What is God going to do? How's he going to show himself? These kind of things. And here he goes, and he rests his head against a stone. He finds a stone to put as his pillow. There's a little parallel to Jesus' life there too, by the way, just so you know. It says, as he slept, he dreamed of a stairway that reached from the earth to heaven. A stairway to heaven. Sound like a Led Zeppelin song, right? He slept and he sees this stairway to heaven. And it says he saw the angels of God going up and down on the stairway. Now, this is a very famous dream that Jacob has. There's movies that are made off this dream. Jacob's Ladder. There's all kinds of different allusions to this dream in so many songs. And Jesus gives his own commentary on this passage. You're going to have to find it in the New Testament. I'm going to make you find it. No, but you'll have to do some research and do a little looking up in the New Testament where Jesus says, talks exactly about this dream. And instead of angels ascending and descending on the stairs, he says he is. Jesus is. Very interesting. And so I'll let you guys find that for yourself. But here he has his dream, and at the top of the stairway stood the Lord. And he said, I am the Lord, the God of your grandfather Abraham, and the God of your father Isaac. The ground you are lying on belongs to you, and I am giving it to you and your descendants. Your descendants will be as numerous as the dust of the earth. They will spread out in all directions, the west to the east, to the north, to the south, and the families of the earth will be blessed through you and through your descendants. Isn't that great? All the families of the earth will be blessed through you and your descendants. There's going to be a blessing to the world through the people that come from Jacob, specifically one person that comes from Jacob's line. So here we see again this promise of this deliverer that will come, that will crush the serpent's head. That was the initial promise of the Bible, that Satan would be defeated finally by the seed of a woman. So we're getting into these genealogies. We're getting narrower and narrower and narrower as we go. We're kind of starting to funnel down. And we keep doing this as people keep being born. And it keeps telling us where the line's going, so to speak. That's what I mean by funneling down. So it says, the ground you are lying on belongs to you. I'm giving it to you. What's more, I am with you. I will protect you wherever you go. Don't you love these promises? Write these out for you. I am with you. I will protect you wherever you go. You should write that out. I am with you, and I will protect you wherever you go. When it's your time to go, it's your time to go. But until that time, nothing can happen, to you. You will be protected until it's time for you to go be with the Lord. He is with you. One day I will bring you back to this land. I will not leave you until I have finished everything, giving you everything that I have promised you. It says that God will not stop until he finishes everything he has promised. He will not leave them until he has finished everything. God will not leave the people of Jacob until he has finished all the promises to him. God is going to take care of him and his descendants. He's going to give him that land, and he's going to see all these promises through. This is what God has promised to the people of Israel. Then Jacob awoke from his sleep and said, surely the Lord is in this place, and I wasn't even aware of it. Have you ever had a moment like that? Kind of a V8 moment? Boom, whoa, yeah, God's with me. But he was also afraid and said, what an awesome place this is. It's none other than the house of God, that very gateway to heaven. We have a good godly fear too with us. Not only are we blown away and excited about God's move, but there also is that fear of God, knowing that God is not someone to be trifled with. God is amazing. He is the infinite. He is way beyond us. He is unique. He is holy. And so it says, hey, this is the gateway to heaven. He is stairway to heaven. Here we go. This is it. I mean, man, I had this encounter, this moment, this mountaintop experience. And the next morning he gets up early and he takes the stone he had rested his head against and he set it upright as a memorial pillar, like a sacred stone. Hey, I had this dream on this pillow, on this rock, and this rock is going to be the kind of memorial of me sleeping and seeing this visitation by God, reiterating this promise that I was told that was given to my dad and to my grandfather. Now it's given to me. It's a dream, but it's so much more than a dream, right? Oh, it's a dream, but it's so much more than a dream. Sometimes God speaks to us in those special ways. And it says, the pillar, he poured olive oil over it. And there's some wonderful symbolism there. Usually oil is a picture of course, anointing, but the idea of the spirit, the spiritual life. And he says he named that place Bethel, which means house of God, although it was previously called Luz. So very cool. He pours olive oil on it. He kind of massages the rock, so to speak, and he names that place Bethel, house of God. This is the place of God. Then Jacob made his vow. If God indeed be with me and protect me on this journey, he will provide for me with food and clothing. And if I return safely to my father's home, then the Lord will certainly be my God. And his memorial pillar I have set up and become a place of worshiping God. I will present to God a tenth of everything he gives me. So here we see this wonderful kind of agreement, this kind of inner vow, if you will, that Jacob makes with God. And he says, hey, you see me through this trip that I have no clue exactly what to expect. You know, you get a tenth of everything. And, this is a memorial that I'm setting up, this rock, and I'm going to be worshiping you there. And he says, that's if you see me through. You know, you got to see me through this, God. And you see a real kind of, that moment, in the movie where the person's kind of at their wit's end and they get a glimpse of something spectacular, of God. And they go, God, you got to see me through this. I'm going through my trial, but you got to see me through this. And me and Sil have always found God that, man, he's protected us. He's always seen us through so many cool things, so many interesting things, so many trying things, but he just continues to see us through. And, we've made so many memorials in our life, places where we worship God, not just in the church building, of course, but everywhere, where we see so many memorials, places where we think of God and we think of his blessings. And we don't give God just a tenth of everything. God has everything. We want God to have it all, through what Christ has done. Everything is his. The earth is his footstool, it says. And so, meaning God owns everything. And so, we want to give him our lives. So here we see a real neat adventure and that Jacob is on to find himself a bride. And it's just him alone. And he hears God's voice. And he has this now new confidence that God is with him. And when a marriage starts with that kind of foundation that God is with them, oh man, it's amazing what happens. And me and Sil have seen miracle after miracle after miracle. And it's been so many that we can't even count them. It's just unreal. Our brains are always on tilt, meaning we're always just like, whoa, that's hardcore, just so many. And we thank God that our hearts are just settled on God, and when you believe that God will protect you and that God is with you and that's the foundation of that union, then man, so many awesome things move on. So you see a real contrast of Esau and his partnership, that's done out of spite and jealousy and anger and, vindictiveness. And then you see Jacob, who's going to find a wife, but he's trusting God. He's now leaning on the Lord. He's now listening to those that do love him, his parents. And he's not trying to spite his parents. He wants to listen to them. And so he's learning how to submit and surrender, all these things. So, man, very cool. A lot of good insights for us, for sure. I hope you even enjoyed some of the little throwing in of stuff with me and my wife as well on this wonderful Sylvia B Day Devo. So, hey, we will have a blessed day. Jesus, thank you guys all for just being our friends and a part of our lives, because that's what it's about. It's not me and Sil. Any blessing we have, we want to be able to be conduits of grace to people, and we definitely, no way we want it to stay with us. So you guys take care. Thank you for being a part of our lives and making our lives enriching our lives, with God's goodness and love. So you guys take care, okay? Have a great day. Bye-bye.